Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sara Lihz and I am back with another card project for you. We're going to make a multi-purpose card and it's so stinking cute. Like, I honestly didn't film this card the first time I made it. I remade it so I could share this video with you. So this is the Dust Bunnies stamp set, and I've already stamped out a bunch of the images. There's also a large bunny on the bottom that comes from the Dir-tea bunny. We're not using him, but he's super cute. I have also already cut out all of these images with their coordinating dies. We're going to use the Simply Sentimental Hello coordinating dies for our sentiment, and then we'll use this double line check background stamp for like a wallpaper in our room. Part of what I love so much about this set is that the coloring is so quick. I am not a super experienced colorist. I enjoy it, but it takes me time. I tell you what, I colored all of these images in 15 minutes. Like, that to me, that's magic. So I'm just going around the outside edge of these bunnies with my CG2. These are Ohuhu alcohol markers. And then I'm going to go around one more time, coming slightly further in with my CG. It's a Roman numeral 2 00. I have like 7 Olos, and I love this one the most. It's the R0.1 because it is the best for cheeks and the insides of ears. So I added that to finish up my 2 bunnies. And then I can move on to these chick feather dusters that just slay me. So I went over everything in Y030, and then on the outside edges, I have Y050. And I'm just adding a little YR to the beak and to the feet. Honestly, I went over the beak and feet with my yellow marker because the orange was going to cover it up anyway, okay? This is my G500 and my BG64, and I am just putting the darkest color at the top and bottom and pulling it towards the middle. And then I'll use that same color combination on the bed, but I'm going to add in a mid-tone. So I have my BG4, and I'll go over the whole comforter, right? Do you guys call it a comforter? Do you call it a bedspread? What do you call it? And then I'm going where I think there will be shadows. So against the wood, and then under the pillow and underneath that throw blanket that's sort of at the bottom. And that one I'm using my G326, okay? I will add in those shadows, and I'm sort of flicking towards the middle, and then I'll bring back that BG4 and just kind of go over everything and get it to blend towards the middle of the bed. And that finishes up most of the comforter. I liked the accent of that really dark teal that we had on the feather dusters too. And so I'm bringing that same G500 right along the bottom edge of that as well. I have my favorite purple combination for the pillow. So I have V250 and V230. And again, just right along the edges, I'm bringing in my darkest color. Sometimes if I'm feeling brave, I'll start with my darker marker, but that doesn't happen very often. I usually go light to dark. And then I'm just going every other one with my palest pink on the inside of the pillow. For the wood grain of my bedpost, I have E220 and E260, and I'm just going over everything with that lighter brown. And then once I get that wash of color down, I'm going to bring in my darker marker. It's not a lot darker. And I'm going to flick up from the bottom and the top, and then I'm going to go over some of those artist drawn lines where it's really showing that the wood would have been darker anyway. Then I'll bring in my lighter marker and I'll go back over everything just to kind of blend it out a little bit. Super simple, right? I wasn't worried about getting it perfect, you guys. I'm not ever worried about a light source. I'm just trying to look for, like, if the lights were on at the top of the room, where might the shadows be? And where might there be darker spots indicated by the way the artist drew it, because they're better at this than I am. For my throw blanket, I'm going to bring in a mid-tone gray, my CG204, and I'm just coloring in the little tassels on there. And then I'm going to bring in my stamp set and stamp that throw blanket onto some pattern paper. This is just a random scrap from my stash, you guys. I keep everything. I don't know about you guys, but like, my scrap stash is fairly epic. And then every now and then, I find a paper like this that I think is just perfect, and I know why I kept it all. So it's really easy for me to just take my scissors and trim around that. Sometimes I'm cutting off all of the black from the stamping, and sometimes I'm not. You're not going to be able to tell. You don't have to be perfect with this. Then I'll add a little glue onto our bigger piece, and I can just use my pickup tool and add that right on top. The wet glue gives me a little bit of wiggle room, which I definitely appreciate. Now we can start working on the background for our room. So I love this stamp, right? It is like 5.5 inches tall, and I have an A2 card base. So I am making sure that it's going all the way up to the top. I'm going to put a little strip of paper on the bottom, so I was less worried about that. And then I'm kind of centering it in between some lines just to make sure it looked symmetrical, because that would have bothered me if it didn't. I added my anti-static powder, and then I'll just use my Versamark ink, some clear sticky ink, and I will stamp that onto my background. And then I was really digging into my stash for this card. I have a rather large box of colored embossing powder that I have had for 10 years or more. You can see it kind of clumping up there. Like, I wasn't sure that this was going to work. That jar is so full, you guys. Use what you have. Use your embossing powders or your whatever. If you're trying to recreate this card, you could absolutely do this in some white embossing powder or silver embossing powder, right? Whatever you have for this. But I just love that when you emboss it, you get that little bit of extra texture, a little bit of shine. I think it really adds to the card. So I'm going to add this background onto my A2 card base. Mine is top folding, but it really doesn't matter for this one. And then I have another scrap that I pulled from my stash, and it's got a little bit of a tone-on-tone sort of checked pattern, and I'll add that down at the bottom. I thought it was sort of a fun carpet for a kid's room or something like that. That strip was 1/2 inch wide, and I just let it hang off the edges because it's really easy to just flip everything over and then trim off the excess with my scissors. I want to get the placement of my primary images on this card before I start gluing everything down. I thought I was going to put the bunny laying down under the bed, like he had crawled under there, but I don't know. I really like that cheeky little guy on the bottom kind of sitting there. Like maybe he found something under there and got into something he wasn't supposed to. So I think I like where they're at, and then I'm working on my sentiment. This scripty hello is so gorgeous. Like, it's stunning. And I'm going to stack it up 3 times in some dark gray cardstock, and then I'll add it onto a shadow that I cut using that same die set. If you have the coordinating stamp set, right, the Simply Sentimental Hello stamp set, those dies will also cut out the stamped sentiments, which I love. If you've been watching me for any amount of time, you know that I love emergency cards or multi-purpose cards. And so a hello set really sets me up to be able to use this card for anything. Later on, once I know who it's for, I can add a little strip sentiment that says happy birthday, or I can write a little note on the inside for whatever occasion it might be. And I think that's why I love this card so much, right? Like, it's super cute and it's super useful in my stash. In fact, now I have 2 of these and I might make a couple more. I just think they're so much fun. So I'm adding down my first few pieces using my wet glue, and then I'm going to pop up that bunny in the front a little bit to create some of that dimension. The bunny underneath the hello, I just love the way that his ears nestle underneath the E. Like, the placement seemed so perfect. I'm a super duper font nerd, and this feels kind of like playing with fonts. For the bunny on the bottom, I just added thin foam, and then I was careful with the placement, right? So he's pulled slightly further forward than my bedposts to make sure that my perspective works. And then I popped up my 2 chick dusters a little bit as well, and that finishes up this card. Start to finish, it's pretty simple, and it's so stinking cute. I hope that you are inspired, that you'll give something like this a try. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.